So, if you're on this channel, I'm assuming that you love film, and personally, I love hearing how people fell in love with the art form. So today I'd like to share my own story of how I fell in love with film. Before I do that though, I'd like you all to start composing some comments down below of how you fell in love with film. Make it as long or as short as you want. These stories genuinely fascinate me. Anyways, without further ado, here's my story. Growing up in a Spanish household, most of my Saturday afternoons as a kid would be spent watching a show called Cine de Barrio. This was a 2.5-hour program that would air one Spanish indie film or noir every weekend, including a post-movie interview of the director and cast. I never really understood half of the plot, but it was always enjoyable, even to my tiny mind, watching a film far beyond my years. But I wouldn't say that's how I fell in love with film. In fact, I'd say the Spanish show only helped pique my interest. Before delving into one of the defining moments that made me fall in love with film, I have to talk about my grandma. She raised me for the majority of my childhood years and was a huge component of how my love for film began. I was encouraged every Sunday morning to pick up one DVD or videotape from the local Blockbuster, but there was one Sunday afternoon that completely changed my life. I was 9 years of age, stood in front of a huge shelf of DVDs at Blockbuster. My grandma was in a hurry to leave because we had to go somewhere. I don't quite remember where it was, so she rushed me to pick anything up within a very small price range. My eyes scanned the animated section, which weirdly enough had a copy of The Matrix sticking out like a sore thumb. Yeah, go figure. I convinced myself that, hey, this might be some type of Wallace and Gromit animation, completely ignoring the age rating. My grandma didn't care for those though, she was cool like that. We picked it up in a hurry, and that exact Sunday I popped it into the DVD player. Talk about a life-defining moment. The love I have for film right now would not exist if not for that one copy of The Matrix crammed into the animated section. I remember sitting back waiting for some cartoon characters to pop up on the screen. Instead, I got a cyberpunk sci-fi with a clean-shaven Keanu Reeves. I was transfixed throughout the entire runtime. My small mind couldn't even begin to comprehend the plot points or overarching themes of religion and technology, but what stuck out to me was the action. That one iconic scene where Neo dodges all of the bullets. Yeah, that was my epiphany. Even at that young age, I knew film was for me. I kid you not, I spent a good 30 minutes pressing the frame by frame button on the remote during that scene in order to count how many bullets Neo dodges successfully. I was this 9-year-old kid completely in awe of what the Wachowski sisters had created. The Matrix became an instant rewatch for me for several months. Even though my love for animated films occupied most of my time, I kept going back to The Matrix. If we pinpoint it like this, Cine de Barrio piqued my interest, animated films kept me interested, and The Matrix multiplied that interest by 100. A few years later, I was still trawling through Blockbuster's catalogue of movies, seeking something akin to The Matrix. I didn't know about genres, nor directors, nor actors. I just wanted anything that looked even remotely like The Matrix. I remember going to the new releases section and I found this huge red monster with a coat similar to Neo's and a woman to the right of him that resembled Trinity. I picked it up immediately. That film was the first Hellboy. Watching Hellboy confirmed two things for me. One, I was going to one day become a Guillermo del Toro fanboy. Spoiler alert, I am. And two, holy fuck, I love watching films. And so from there on out, watching movies became my main hobby. But that's all they were. My young mind couldn't analyze or identify a director's style, but I loved getting immersed into different worlds and characters. It wasn't until the age of 14 where, yet again, The Matrix reminded me of my love for cinema. I was in secondary school, high school for my American viewers, and sat down for my first film studies lesson. I had chosen to take this subject for the 2 years leading to my GCSE exams. As I sat around this room taught by an absolute film geek, Mr. Gayford, if you're watching this, which you're probably not, you're fucking awesome dude, my eyes traced every single movie poster. This was my kind of paradise. As part of the course, we were asked to give up our lunch breaks on Thursdays to run film club for the entire school. That would involve choosing the movies, giving a brief introduction. My first pick for a classroom of people predominantly younger than me was The Matrix. My teacher immediately shut me down, but then pulled me aside to talk about the movie, so while Grease or some shit was playing in the background, we were talking about The Matrix. He was talking some real complex stuff to me at that time, the whole Messiah complex, green screen, bullet time. It's like the first time someone tells you Santa isn't real or wrestling is fake. Bullet time green screens, so they weren't even in some of those locations. My mind was racing with ideas and questions. I distinctly remember him going, "I'll tell you what, why don't you do some research on green screen and bullet time and shoot a mini documentary for your end of year project." It was daunting, I was confused as fuck, but I did it. He ended up moving to another school at the end of the year and the project was delayed until the following year under a new teacher. She didn't quite comprehend what I wanted to do, but I did it anyhow. And so my 6-minute green screen, blue screen and travelling mat documentary went live. I went from just caring about the Matrix to discovering the likes of Georges Méliès and the Four Troublesome Heads. I suppose the point of this story is that not only did the Matrix make me fall in love with film as an art form, it made me pull the veil behind the screen and discover things such as directors, camera shots, editing styles. I was now aged 14. A kid who no longer looked at films the same way. I became that guy who would watch a film, then watch it again with audio commentary, then read about it, then watch it again, then make my own analysis, and then watch it again for pure enjoyment. And that's really how I fell in love with film. But why has it stuck with me so heavily since the age of 9? I mean, I suppose film has always helped me cast away my demons. As someone who battled with depression throughout his teenage years, lost a grandma who raised him and made him pursue film, I had issues that I didn't want to air out. I wanted them erased from my memory. Films were like taking a painkiller. For 90 to 120 minutes, there I sat, trouble-free and engrossed in a new world with characters unlike the ones in mine. I would say film helped me grow up, develop my vocabulary, and hone my creativity better than my parents' school or friends ever did. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. As someone who just writes, I attribute that to reading a crapload of subtitles and picking up on grammar and punctuation throughout those squiggly lines under talking characters. But hey, movies also opened up new portals in my life. I discovered reading for pleasure without books being forced on me, gaming as an art form for storytelling, and music as a tool for narrative. To think one cyberpunk action sci-fi led to all of this is crazy and shows the power of film at its very core. To this day, I'm still learning and discovering more about film. Pretty much everything I do on this channel revolves around that. No matter how much I consume, there's always something around the corner that I haven't. Once I exhaust the director's filmography, I move on to the next one. Same goes with genres and actors. It's a fun, never-ending cycle. I mean, just this past summer, I fell in love with the German expressionist movement in film. It's these things that make cinema such a fascinating tool for education and entertainment. If you watched this all the way through, I'd like to thank you for listening to my story. If you feel so inclined, do drop a like and hit that subscribe button, as it helps the channel grow, incite more conversations like this, and even more videos. As ever, thanks for watching.